Daily devotion with Pastor Balla for October 22nd, 2022 from John chapter 9, Seeing the Signs of God, part 3. Previously we heard that Jesus healed a man who was born blind, and when Jesus was asked, did this man sin or his parents? Jesus replied by basically saying none of the above, but that this was done so that the works of God might be displayed through him. The religious leaders, because Jesus did this on the Sabbath, considered Jesus to be a sinner, and he couldn't possibly be from God, even though Jesus was performing the works of God, as a man born blind was now able to see who was standing right there in front of him. So the religious leaders' response was, throw this guy out of the temple, because his very presence testified to who Jesus is. So the narrative continues as Jesus now approaches this previously blind man who was cast out of the temple. Also note that at this time, the previously blind man did not know who Jesus was. He didn't realize who Jesus looked like because he was still blind and he was told to go and wash. So let's continue the narrative in John chapter 9, verse 35. Jesus heard that they had cast him out, and having found him, he said, do you believe in the Son of Man? The Son of Man. That's a phrase to use to describe the Messiah. So get a load of the situation here. The man gets tossed out of the temple, the place where Jewish people should be gathering to hear about the coming Messiah. And now Jesus asks this man whether he believes in the Messiah. Obviously, the temple was not teaching about the coming Messiah. But notice how the blind man, who's now healed, responds. Verse 36, he answered, and who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? This man is looking for the Messiah, even though he got tossed out of the temple. What a beautiful testimony to his faith and promise and God's promise of the coming Messiah. Then you get Jesus connecting the dots for him. Verse 37, Jesus said to him, you have seen him, and it is he who is speaking to you. He said, Lord, I believe, and he worshiped him. The man who was healed by Jesus may have recognized the voice of Jesus, but it's always good to have some verification. The response is one of faith. So let's go back to the beginning of this narrative just to make a point. From John chapter 9, verse 2. And his disciples asked Jesus, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And Jesus answered, it was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. So what is the work of God to be displayed in this blind man? Was it that his physical sight is now restored, or his spiritual sight restored? You see, as Christians, we see that faith is the greatest gift of God given to us, because with faith there is eternal life. But we get so distracted by the things of this world, even the things of our own bodies, that we may say it's a little unfair that God had this man born blind. But keep in mind, all that we are and all that we have is a gift from God. And now this man believes. There is no greater gift. Verse 39, Jesus said, for judgment I came into this world, that those who do not see may see, and those who see may become blind. Some of the Pharisees near him heard these things and said to him, are we also blind? Wow, the Pharisees did get the point, but it wasn't a good message. The Pharisees who tossed the man out of the temple, who was healed by Jesus, is now challenging the very Son of God who is standing before them. Verse 41, Jesus said to them, if you were blind, you would have no guilt. But now that you say, we see, your guilt remains. You see, the Pharisees claimed to know God, but failed to see the Messiah standing right there before him. Yes, our stubbornness of our unbelief is very strong, but thanks be to God. He still loves us and forgives us and wants to open our eyes to see Jesus as the Christ, the only Messiah. God's peace and many blessings be with you, and thank you for listening. And please take an opportunity to share this message with others. If you have enjoyed these daily devotions, please consider making a donation to Peace Lutheran Church, 24024 West Main Street, Plainfield, Illinois, 60544. Thank you again for listening.